Text 22, chapter 4. Yadricha lava santushto dvandvatito vimatsaraha samau siddhava siddhau cha kritva pina nibadyate. Yadricha out of his own accord, Yalabha with gain, Santushta satisfied, Dvandva quality, Atita surpass, Vimatsaraha free from envy, Sama steady, Siddhau in success, Asiddhau failure, Cha also, Kritva doing, Api although, Na never, Nibadyate becomes affected. Translation: He who is satisfied with gain which comes of its own accord, he who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled, although performing actions. A Krishna conscious person does not make much endeavor even to maintain his body. He is satisfied with gains which are obtained of their own accord. He neither begs nor borrows, but he labors. He neither begs nor borrows, but he labors honestly as far as is in his power, and is satisfied with whatever is obtained by his own honest labor. He is therefore independent in his livelihood. He does not allow anyone's service to hamper his own service in Krishna consciousness. However, for the service of the Lord, he can participate in any kind of action without being disturbed by the quality of the material world. The duality of the material world is felt in terms of heat and cold, or misery and happiness. A Krishna conscious person is above duality because he does not hesitate to act in any way for the satisfaction of Krishna. Therefore, he is steady both in success and in failure. These signs are visible when one is fully in transcendental knowledge. Text 23. Gata sangasya muktasya jnana avastita chetasa yagna charata karma samagram praviliyate. Gata sangasya, one unattached to the modes of material nature. Muktasya, of the liberated. Jnana avastita, situated in transcendence. Chetasa, whose wisdom. Yagnaya, for the sake of Yagya. Krishna, Acharata, acting. Karma, work. Samagram, in total. Praviliyate, merges entirely. The work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence. Becoming fully Krishna conscious, one is freed from all dualities and thus is free from the contaminations of material modes. He can become liberated because he knows his constitutional position in relationship with Krishna, and thus his mind cannot be drawn from Krishna consciousness. Consequently, whatever he does for Krishna, who is primeval Vishnu. Therefore, all his works are technically sacrifices, because sacrifice aims at satisfying the Supreme Person, Vishnu Krishna. The resultant reactions to all such works certainly merge into transcendence, and one does not suffer material effects. Brahmarpanam brahmahavir brahmagno brahmanahutam brahmanaiva teva gantavyam brahma karma samadhina. Brahma, spiritual in nature. Arpanam, contribution. Brahma, the supreme. Havi, butter. Brahma, spiritual. Agno, in the fire of consummation. Brahmana, by the spirit soul. Hutam, offered. Brahma, spiritual. Kingdom, eva, certainly. Tena, by him. Gantavyam, to be reached. Brahma, spiritual. Karma, in activity. Samadhina, by complete absorption. Translation: a person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. Purport: how the activities in Krishna consciousness can lead one ultimately to the spiritual goal is described here. There are various activities in Krishna consciousness, and all of them will be described in the following verses. But for the present, just the principle of Krishna consciousness is described. A conditioned soul entangled in material contamination is sure to act in the material atmosphere, and yet he has to get out of such an environment. The process by which the conditioned soul can get out of the material atmosphere is Krishna consciousness. For example, a patient who is suffering from a disorder of the bowels due to overindulgence in milk products is cured by another milk product, namely curds. The materially absorbed conditioned soul can be cured by Krishna consciousness as set forth here in the Gita. This process is generally known as yajna, or activity sacrifices simply meant for the satisfaction of Vishnu or Krishna. The more the activities of the material world are performed in Krishna consciousness or for Vishnu only, the more atmosphere becomes spiritualized by complete absorption. The word Brahman means spiritual. The Lord is spiritual, and the rays of his transcendental body are called Brahma Jyotir. His spiritual effulgence. Everything that exists is situated in that Brahma Jyotir, but when Jyotir is covered by illusion or maya or sense gratification is called material. This material veil can be removed at once by Krishna consciousness. Thus, the offering for the sake of Krishna consciousness, the consuming agent of such an offering, or contribution, the process of consumption, the contributor, and the result are all combined together. Brahman, or the Absolute Truth. The Absolute Truth covered by Maya is called matter. Matter, dovetailed for the cause of Absolute Truth, regains its spiritual quality. Krishna consciousness is the process of converting the illusory consciousness into Brahman, or the Supreme. When the mind is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, it is said to be in samadhi or trance. Anything done in such transcendental consciousness is called yajna, or sacrifice for the Absolute. In that condition of spiritual consciousness, the contributor, the contribution, the consumption, the performer or leader of the performance, and the result of or ultimate gain, everything becomes one in the Absolute, the Supreme Brahman. That is the method of Krishna consciousness. Daivam eva apare yagyam yogina paryupasate brahmagno apare yagyam yagno vaipo vajuvati. Daivam, in worshipping the demigods, eva, like this, apare, some others, yagyam, sacrifices, yogina, mystics, paryupasate, worship perfectly, Brahma, the Absolute Truth, agno, in the fire, apare, others, yagyam, sacrifice, yagyena, by sacrifice, evam, thus, upajuvati, offer. Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some other offer sacrifices. Some offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman. Purport: as described above, a person engaged in discharging duties in Krishna consciousness is also called a perfect yogi or a first-class mystic. But there are others also who perform similar sacrifices in the worship of demigods, and still others who sacrifice to the Supreme Brahman, or the impersonal feature of the Supreme Lord. So there are different kinds of sacrifices in terms of different categories. Such different categories of sacrifice by different types of performers only superficially demark varieties of sacrifice. Factually, sacrifice means to satisfy the Supreme Lord Vishnu, who is also known as Yajna. All the different varieties of sacrifice can be placed within two primary divisions, namely sacrifice of the worldly possessions and sacrifice in pursuit of transcendental knowledge. Those who are in Krishna consciousness sacrifice all material possessions for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, while others who want some temporary material happiness sacrifice their material possessions to satisfy demigods such as Indra, the sun god, etc. And others who are impersonal sacrifice their identity by merging into the existence of the impersonal Brahman. The demigods are powerful living entities appointed by the Supreme Lord for the maintenance and supervision of all material functions like the heating, watering, lighting of the universe. Those who are interested in material benefits worship the demigods by various sacrifices according to the Vedic rituals. They are called Bhava Ishwaravadi, or believers in many demigods, but others who worship the impersonal feature of the Absolute Truth and regard the forms of the demigods as temporary sacrifice their individual selves in the supreme fire and thus end their individual existence by merging into the existence of the Supreme. Such impersonal sacrifice their time in philosophical speculation to understand the transcendental nature of the Supreme. In other words, the fruity workers sacrifice their material possessions for material enjoyment, whereas the impersonal sacrifice is material designations with a view of merging into the existence of the Supreme. For the impersonalists, the fire altar of the sacrifice is the Supreme Brahman, and the offering is the self being consumed by the fire of Brahman. The Krishna conscious person, like Arjuna, however, sacrifices everything for the satisfaction of Krishna, and thus all his material possessions as well as his own self, everything is sacrificed for Krishna. Thus he is the first class yogi, but he does not lose his individual existence. Text 26. Shrotraanindriyanyanye samyak agnishu juvati shabdadin vishananya indriya agnishu juvati. Shrotradini, such as the hearing process, Indriyani, senses, Anni, other, Samyama, of restraint, Agnishu, in the fires, Juvati, offers, Shabdadin, sound, vibration, etc. Vishayan, objects of sense gratification, Anni, others, Indriya, of the sense organs, Agnishu, in the fires, Juvati, they sacrifice. Translation: some of the unadulterated brahmacharis sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of the mental control, and others, the regulated householders, sacrifice the objects of the senses in the fire of the senses. Purport: the members of the four divisions of human life, namely the brahmachari, the grahastha, the vanaprastha, and the sannyasi, are all meant to become perfect yogis or transcendentalists. Since the human life is not meant for our enjoying sense gratification like the animals, the four orders of human life are so arranged that many become perfect in spiritual life. The brahmacharis, or students under the care of a bona fide spiritual master, control the mind by abstaining from sense gratification. A brahmachari hears only words concerning Krishna consciousness. Hearing is the basic principle for understanding, and therefore pure brahmachari engages fully in Harer Namaiva Namanukirtanam, chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord. He restrains himself from the vibrations of the material sounds, and his hearing is engaged in the transcendental sound vibration of Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Similarly, the householders who have some license for sense gratification perform such acts with great restraint. Sex life, intoxication, meat eating are general tendencies of human society, but a regulated householder does not indulge in unrestricted sex life and other sense gratification. Marriage on the principles of religious life is therefore current in all civilized human society, but because that is the way for restricted sex life. This restricted unattached sex life is also a kind of yajna because the restricted householder sacrifices his general tendency towards sense gratification for higher transcendental life. Text 27. Sarvan indriya karmani prana karmani chapare atma samyamya yogagno juvati jnanadipite. Sarvani, of all indriya, the senses, karmani, functions, prana karmani, functions of the life, breath, cha also, apare, others, atma samyama, of controlling the mind, yoga, the linking process, agno, in the fire of juvati, offer jnanadipite, because of the urge for self-realization. Others who are interested in achieving self-realization through the control of mind and senses offer the functions of all senses and of all the life breath as oblations into the fire of the controlled mind. The yoga system conceived by Patanjali is referred to herein. In the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, the soul is called Pratyagatma and Paragatma. As long as the soul is attached to senses, its enjoyment, it is called Paragatma. But as soon as the same soul becomes detached from the sense enjoyment, it is called Pratyagatma. The soul is subjected to the functions of the 10 kinds of air at work within the body, and this is perceived through the breathing system. The Patanjali system of yoga instructs one how to control the functions of the body's air in a technical manner, so that ultimately all the functions of the air within become favorable for purifying the soul of material attachment. According to the yoga system, Pratyagatma is the ultimate goal. This Pratyagatma is withdrawn from the activities in matter. The senses interact with the sense objects like the ear for hearing, eyes for seeing, nose for smelling, tongue for tasting, and hand for touching. All of them are thus engaged in activities outside the self. They are called the functions of pranavayu. The apanavayu goes downwards, vyanavayu acts to shrink and expand, samanavayu adjusts equilibrium, udanavayu goes upwards, and when one is enlightened, one engages all these in searching for self-realization. Text 28. Dravya yajnas tapo yajya yoga yajyastata pare swadhyaya jnana yajyascha yataya samshita vrata. Dravya yajna in sacrificing one's possessions, tapa yajna sacrifice in austerities, yoga yajna sacrifice in eightfold mysticism, tata thus apare others, swadhyaya sacrifice in study of the Vedas, jnana yajna sacrifice in advancement of transcendental knowledge, cha also, yataya enlightened persons, samshita vrataha taken to strict vows. Translation: having accepted strict vows, for some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities, by practicing the yoga for eightfold mysticism, for studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge. Purport: these sacrifices may be fitted into various divisions. There are persons who are sacrificing their possessions in the form of various kinds of charities. In India, the rich mercantile community or princely orders open various kinds of charitable institutions like Dharmashala, Annakshetra, Atidishala, Anadalaya and Vidyapita. In other countries too, there are many hospitals, old age homes and similar charitable foundations meant for distributing food, education and medical treatment free to the poor. All these charitable activities are called Dravyamaya Yajna. There are others who, for higher elevation in life or promotion to higher planets within the universe, voluntarily accept many kinds of austerities such as Chandrayana and Chaturmasya. These processes entail severe vows for conducting life under certain rigid rules. For example, under the Chaturmasya vow, the candidate does not shave for 4 months during the year July to October. He does not eat certain foods, does not eat twice in a day, and does not leave home. Such sacrifice of the comforts of life is called Tapomaya Yajna. There are still others who engage themselves in different kinds of mystic yogas like the Patanjali system for merging into the existence of the Absolute, or Hatha Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga for particular perfections. And some travel to all the sanctified places of pilgrimage. All these practices are called Yoga Yajna, sacrifice for certain type of perfection in the material world. There are others who engage themselves in the studies of different Vedic literature, specifically Upanishads and Vedanta Sutras, or the Sankhya philosophy. All these are called Swadhyaya Yajna, or engagement in the sacrifice of studies. All these yogas are faithfully engaged in different types of sacrifice and are seeking a higher status of life. Krishna consciousness, however, is different from these because it is the direct service to the Supreme Lord. Krishna consciousness cannot be attained by any one of the above mentioned types of sacrifice, but can be attained only by the mercy of the Lord and his bona fide devotees. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is transcendental.